and to make a calculation, and then once you've got the calculation down pat, then a sponsor could be it could be an advertiser, it could be like a record company, or it could be like a large content creation company, it could be like any number of things. So I think there's this to some degree a little bit of a misunderstanding about what an advertiser. Everyone's like, advertiser, it's the brands, it's the bucks. It's like not necessarily always the advertisers. Like guys like Steve Aoki, like they have like heaps of money, and they are content creators and they're content makers, like. So I think that the paradigm is shifting significantly.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of value in data. I read a thing from Cisco saying that the value of the Internet of Everything in the next 10 years could be up to $11.1 trillion per year. But based on
how many coins is that, man?
What are you going to buy an island in the Bahamas? Run VR from there?
Well, I think I really see the future being hopefully how you just said $1 trillion. Like I would love to see a world in 10 years where nothing gets measured by the dollar anymore, and it's by individual currencies that measure specific things. And so you're not always measuring things in fiat currencies, so you're not then got the ball and chain to your neck, to the Federal Reserve or to the Reserve Bank of Australia or wherever that reserve, or the government, or big business, or all these guys who are pushing the rest of the world around. I think and Elon Musk went on the record just recently talking about the redistribution of wealth and how significant that's going to be.
Yeah, there's Phil Smart, a friend of both of us, and legendary DJ. We were having one of these chats after I played a gig for him in Newcastle, and he pulled out a book called Sacred Economics.
Oh yeah.
And it talks...
Is that Eisenstein?
Yeah, Charles Eisenstein, and just talks about the idea that we don't need to get rid of money, but rather than backing it against all these financial instruments that mean nothing to people, we back it against things like people's health or the environment, so that as you say, money becomes to have a real value based on what respecting people and the world we live in, rather than just a few banks owning it all.
I think that's the most exciting part of it, actually, and that's why I'm really enjoying being a part of the revolution, I suppose you could say. But yeah, thanks for coming in and chatting to us.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. I'm going to put another track on. This track is by Caribou. It's a track called Sun. It's very airy and bright. It's the Midland edit. We've got another guest in the studio, George Salmon. He'll be coming online very shortly. Keep it locked. You're listening to VRradio.
happiest of species with no self-design. Searching for upliftment, eyes shut all the time. See, habits don't come easy, but what they leave behind is simple as the blueprint crying out to be refined. Growing pains are there to cure us, we can't stay the same. Let's walk through the garden, see how the time has changed. TV plasma, palm tree, sun and sea, broken city desolation, orphaned eyes look at me, her face is like a mirror, says what it is, constant moving population without no home to live, buy salvation at your local convenience store, like opium to ease the conscience, check the football score, we have so much it's wasted, with each breath to draw, they never listen to the words, so what were they for? Just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Just a little bit more.
All right, you're listening to VR Radio. I've got George Salmon here with me. George, hello and welcome to VR Radio. We've been waiting for you to come a few times now. What happened?
Why, thank you. Well, I had to see a man about a horse. But I'm here finally and really excited to be up in the studio.
Well, we've just seen the new Gazecoin logo, and I just said offline that it looks like a Spartan warrior shield. It's beautiful and makes me want to wear it.
It's geographically aligned with the virtual universe.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of art. Who designed that?
Our friend and co-worker Brian Santos, his team did that. He's been involved in the crypto space for a while, and it's just something that he's really good at doing. Great
piece of art and a great step up for Gazecoin. If you've just tuned in, we're talking with George Salmon, who's one of the advisors for the Gazecoin project. Of course, you're listening to VR Radio, which is powered by Gazecoin. If you're confused about what all these semantics mean, well, let me explain it to you. Basically, VR Radio is aiming to become the world's first virtual reality radio station. And what does that mean? Well, we've actually built a virtual reality world called Dream Channel, and through our physical studio here, we're going to be streaming using Connect cameras and volumetric captures of the DJs. We're going to be streaming them live into Dream Channel VR, into a virtual world. How that fits in with Gazecoin? Well, Gazecoin is the unit or token, which is a blockchain-based token that measures everything that you look at whilst you're immersed using a technology called eye tracking. George, how does that sound to you?
It sounds really good, and it's a really unique and special project. I guess why I got involved in it to begin with was because, for me, virtual reality and virtual currency is just a natural complementary fit. I mean, when you're in a virtual world, what else would you use? You can't bring your gold and fiat in with you. But the thing that I see, aside from the gaze and how gaze interacts with the universe, which is the key element, obviously, but it's just the thought around everyone and anything having their own worlds that they create and design. And within those worlds, if you think about it, you can have your own coins. So just say, for example, you have some celebrities like Snoop Dogg who wants to have his own world. He can have a Snoop coin where he and his fans use that unit of value to interact with each other for different types of things and transactional types of stuff. The other thing about it too, though, is that other people can have their own coins as well, and as they travel through the metaverse and go through different worlds, they can exchange coins using gaze technology to look around and basically measure and interact with their worlds, and then as a result of that, get targeted messages about how they look at the world and how they can buy and interact with things in that world. So what you're really seeing from my standpoint is a way for microeconomies all the way down to the sovereign individual to be able to interact in a world. And the one thing that we were looking to do as well on top of that is build a decentralized exchange above the protocol of the virtual world, where you can buy and sell currencies of different people based on values and amounts, so that people can truly interact in a virtual world using a virtual currency and different currencies to buy and sell things, with gaze as the way and the measurement for knowing what's valuable to you by how you're looking and perceiving your world around you. So it gives consumers and advertisers a way to interact with each other and be empowered both.
Makes total sense, which is why companies like big major record labels and institutions like the Federal Reserve will hate it, because it's basically dismantling the legacy system of the world, the legacy systems of the world being, in the music. I can speak from the music industry, for example, when you said Snoop and Snoop Coin and him having complete control of his own content and talent, that is actually a nightmare for a major record label. But that's the whole point, right? It's disruptive.
Well, that's right. I mean, we're seeing a major paradigm shift here. And when people talk about the blockchain, there's all these different nomenclatures that people always talk about. And it can be confusing because people are always talking over each other, thinking about different types of technologies based on what they know versus what other people know. So like when I try and explain what a blockchain is to people, I just tell them that it's really a shift in trust from these centralized organizations and centralized third-party intermediaries to out to the fringes, where people in a peer-to-peer fashion are able to interact and transact with each other without necessarily needing to know each other or trust each other. So think about how powerful that is in a virtual world where everyone has their own currencies, and it's basically a truly decentralized, out on the fringes type of system where people's worlds are as big as the universe itself, but yet everyone's trying to get reputational capital and transactional capital by building themselves out and building their worlds out so that truly you can figure out and monetize how you are in your world based on reputation, based on what you're looking at, based on getting paid through the data that you're providing in those worlds, but also being able to transact throughout all those worlds. So, I mean, that's how I always look at it and try and explain it to people. Otherwise, you just get boggled down in technical terms that are really different for a lot of different people.
Yeah, I think it's very significant right now, especially because this year has really been the year of the ICO. You know, like it's gone gangbusters, and to some degree, I think the onus is on the individual to get informed and make prudent choices about, you know, what is legitimate and what's not.
Absolutely. Because,
you know, there is going to be a whole lot of rubbish out there. Because people are seeing this as a gold rush. It is literally a virtual gold rush at the moment, and people are just, you know, in true human nature fashion, are going gangbusters, going for gold, and really, I think the people standing there at the end with you know, that can hold their heads up and be proud of what they've done are the people that are actually creating real value with genuine concepts, and that's part of the reason why I'm excited about this project, is because I can see its value.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, it's a good point you make there, because believe it or not, while you're in speculative fervor and it seems like everyone's buying everything and you could put anything on a blockchain, including, you know, dentists and Dentacoin.
Yeah, I've seen Dentacoin.
And, you know, all this other stuff. There are actually people out there who are buying things based on things that have value and perceived value, even though it's the early days. I mean, there's some stuff that will truly work on a blockchain. There's other stuff that has no hope of working no matter how much money you throw at it. And there are people out there who are experts in this space who are investing, and they're the ones who are going to stand to make the most. I mean, you might once in a while have a moonshot project that goes through the roof, but overall, there is a methodology around things that make sense and things that don't.
Correct, and I think that's a really interesting space we're in at the moment, and really, if you're, you know, whether you're an individual, a speculator, an investor, it's going to eventually affect everybody. The blockchain is here to stay. Bitcoin is here to stay. And I think that, you know, the direction of, you know, the way virtual reality is now, I mean, really, it's very embryonic still. People are kind of dipping their toes in. It's kind of like, I suppose, when you know, the first CD came out and everyone was like, what's this shiny round thing, you know, like, not sure about it. I like my tapes, you know, I like my record players, you know, but it's here to stay, and people are adopting goggles, and then Microsoft has done their HoloLens, and Google's brought out their glasses, and eventually, you know, you're probably going to end up with Tom Ford glasses with some digital input on there, which will, you know, alter your reality somehow. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's an enormous amount of money coming into the VR space and obviously into the blockchain space as well. And, you know, I liken what we're seeing now. First, I'll just say that when this much money rushes into something so quickly, generally that's because the idea around it is something that is going to stay, as you mentioned. Whether or not it is what you think it's going to be when you first get in, that's a different question. But I kind of think about it like when we had the .com boom, right? You had broadband and the idea of broadband and streaming and being able to stream videos and stream music and be able to have this internet that was everywhere. people threw millions and trillions of dollars into laying the cables and laying down broadband everywhere, right? And all these companies were right in that this was going to change the world, but most of them went bankrupt along the way getting the infrastructure right so that you could have this streaming live broadband everywhere. The same thing is going to happen in this space as well. I mean, it happens in most spaces, but what the point being, though, is that when money shifts like it does into a space, you can usually say that there's a lot of people who believe that it's real, and just by believing in it, it almost becomes a reality in and of itself. So, like, blockchain is here. Virtual reality has been another thing that's been very similar in how the hype of it. I think the hype cycle is probably behind us now, and now the technology is probably getting to a point where you can do things with it. Still, a ways away, but it's very much further than it was when people were saying VR was going to be the next big thing, and it's been 5-10 years of saying that. I think we're closer now to that than we were just a couple of months ago with all the rush in with all the big guys like you mentioned.
You're listening to VRradio. I'm talking to George Salmon, who's one of the advisors for Gazecoin. We're going to get back to some music, some good chats there.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We're gonna get back to listening to some Friday afternoon house music. Keep it locked. VRradio.